Hey everybody, this is Anthony Fiore, owner of Capri Cosmetology Learning Centers. We're here at Capri HQ again, and welcome back. Today what we want to do for you guys is we want to explain to you a classic haircut, which is an A-line bob that was back in the Sassoon days. Another term that we use at Capri is the diagonal forward haircut. Current status of in today's era is when we do this haircut in a long version, it's called a lob. So I gave you a lob today and I wanted to explain it to you, and then I'm going to actually break it down for you so that you understand exactly how we got to this point. What I'm showing you here is a one length haircut, which is longer towards the front and shorter towards the back. Now, there's a couple of key things you should be aware of in these haircuts, and that is that a A-line or diagonal forward haircut can only live from the top of the shoulders up until the occipital bone on the head. That's it. You will not do this haircut like this anywhere on someone's back unless they want to look kind of weird or freaky or want to make a statement. And hey, I'm cool with that. If they want to be looking like that and they want that V going the opposite way on their back, go for it. Now, when we talk about going into the haircut, I want to make sure that you understand, and I'm going to tilt this mannequin forward for you, is that this haircut here is done in a one length fashion, and it is done using the laws of haircutting. As you could see in the back here, you will see that this haircut is done into a definite V. Now, when you talk about two lines in a haircut going forward, that's where we get that name, diagonal forward. And when you do this haircut, and you use the top of the shoulders as your point and go downward from there, that's what creates the product that's called a lob today. There's a bone in the back of your head here, and I don't know if you could see it, but it's called the atlas bone. And there's a bone right here. Everybody knows the occipital bone, and on my bald head, you could see it right there, very prominent. But there's also a bone right above the shoulders, and that's called the atlas bone. The atlas bone is your starting point for a lob haircut. And then of course you get longer from that point forward. Anything that goes below the atlas bone is gonna sit on the back of someone's shoulders or separate on someone's shoulders. And that's no longer a bob, that's long hair cutting. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna show you a way to create this in a very short time frame. In other words, one snip. And the way we do that is we're going to actually be pulling all of the hair back into a ponytail and bringing it to the base of the neck, and we're going to then cut this all in one shot. The reality is that this haircut, because we're pulling it back this way, we are going to be shifting the hair, which creates distance, which will actually occur towards the front of the haircut. Why? Because we're pulling it back. So basic law of haircutting, shifting creates distance, which creates length. And also, because we are shifting this hair back, we are no longer going to be able to call this a one-length haircut. It'll actually have graduation in the hair. And if you are a good freaking hairdresser, you will know that a one-length haircut is heavier than a graduated haircut. And also that a one-length haircut will have the exterior design and the interior design as one and the same. So, what we're gonna do now is we're going to prepare this mannequin to actually get cut with one scissor stroke. And what I'm going to do, and this is really important for this haircut, is I'm going to start in the very center, and this is what we call distribution. We're gonna distribute the hair around this head so that it is even on both sides and in the center. So we'll start with the center and put this hair into my hand, holding it like a ponytail. And then what we're gonna do is we're going to start to comb this hair back. Now, obviously clients have ears, and what we would do in this case with the ear is to tuck the hair behind the client's ear and pull it back into our ponytail. We will only cut this when we feel confident that these sides are being pulled back in the same manner on both sides of this hair. I also have to know where these sides are going to be held in my fingers so that they are not being combed underneath. They have to be combed on top. We're going to go to the center of the neck, and we're going to take this hair off all in one shot. And before letting go, I want to make sure that my line is exactly where I want it. And I'm using the underhand technique with my scissors. I'm going to now release this haircut, and we're going to see what we have. This haircut is now longer in the front, shorter in the back. But, just like we said earlier, different than a one-length haircut. Definitely a graduated haircut, not as heavy as a one-length haircut. And we will do some cleaning up on that afterwards. The difference that I want to bring out in this particular way in which we cut this hair is that when we did the A-line bob, the original A-line bob, which was in one length fashion, we created a haircut that only had 2 lines in it like this. So it actually went up into a V. In this particular haircut, because I had to hold my fingers horizontally, I have a small horizontal in the middle here, and then I have 2 V lines coming down off of the corners of that. So in reality, we have 3 lines here which go from horizontal to diagonal forward because I had to hold my fingers horizontally to do this cut. What we're going to then do now is we're going to actually blow dry this haircut to show you the finished result, and then we're going to go in and we're going to actually do some modernization and some texturizing, and also going to show you how to do a side sweeping bang. Okay, so this is the finished result of our A-line bob, which was done by pulling all the hair back and putting it into our fingers and cutting it all in one shot against the neck here. As we explained earlier, I want to show you the back that is different than the previous mannequin or the previous A-line bob that we did. And if you look down towards the bottom here, you could see that there is an initial horizontal line right here, and then the haircut starts to get longer from this point. And that's simply because of me having to hold my fingers again horizontally to cut that line so that we had balance in the haircut. What this haircut shows you, though, is that we can create a very quick, very effective A-line bob. And we could always adjust this by cutting the length shorter in the front, or leaving it the length it is, or creating a design around the face to create a beautiful face frame for her, which we will do. But before we do that for you, what we want to do is we want to create for you this same haircut, but in a different way. We're going to actually elevate a little bit higher, and we're going to create a haircut just like this, but a little bit different, creating a lot more action towards the bottom of this haircut. So we're going to do this whole haircut dry again. It's going to be basically a one-shot haircut. I got the big choppers out here for you, the Hikari 7-inch, and we're going to do that on the dry hair just because I know that the Hikaris will be able to take this off much quicker than the rest of the scissors I have in my pouch. And as I prepare this mannequin, I'm going to do it in the same way I was doing it when the hair was wet. But what we're going to do now is we're going to hold it in a ponytail, and I'm going to distribute that hair around this head, and we're going to raise my hand up higher, and we're going away from the bottom neckline. In other words, we're not holding our scissors or our fingers down against the head. That is going to be a heavier haircut. We're actually going to raise our ponytail up and out of the haircut, and we're going to wind up taking off a lot more weight. So when you're a young hairdresser and you want to know how to make your haircuts lighter, raise your elevations, makes a lighter haircut. Lower the elevation, the heavier your haircuts are going to be. Okay. Once you have the position and you feel confident that everything is balanced in your hands, both sides, we are now ready to cut that hair off. It is important to make sure that you take all of this hair, and as you cut, you keep that hand steady and in position. and come all the way across with your line to assure that both sides are even. Once you're confident in that all the hair is off, release. As you can see that at the bottom of this haircut, we have a lot more activation and we have a lot more lightness through the bottom and softness through the bottom. And what we want to make sure of is that when we do this type of hair cutting, that these haircuts are done in such a fashion that they create graduation in that field. In other words, we want to make sure that the higher we go with our projection, the lighter the haircut gets. Now, as you can see, this haircut creates a weight line. And what we're going to do is I'm going to cut this technique with my scissors on dry hair. And what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to release weight in a haircut. And I'm going to use two techniques. One side of this mannequin I'm going to do by showing you a technique called knuckling around. And that way, the way we do that is we're going to take this haircut and we're going to take the hair in the corner, and you could see the corner we built. And we're going to then take our fingers and wrap them like this to knuckle around and take the weight corner off of this haircut. We're going to do that dry because that haircut technique is done dry, and we're going to do that to release this weight line in this haircut. The theory here is if I were to go in and take this corner off with a straight line, in reality I built one corner and I built a new corner up here. So now I have two corners because a straight line to another line is going to create a corner. So if I don't want to create two new corners, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my sections, I'm going to bring them out, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap my fingers like this, and I'm going to point cut this hair off, creating a more rounded design and removing that corner for myself. We're going to do that all the way around here, just to show you the difference. Again, bringing it out, looking for the corner, knuckling around, that's the technique name. And we're going to just take that hair, break it up with some point cutting, let it drop, and see the difference. What you could see in this haircut is you could see that we've done this haircut with the knuckling around, and now if you compare this side, the weighted area on this side versus the other side, we have a much lighter side, and then we have a much heavier side in the back here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this haircut and I'm going to wet it down, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do another technique for you to remove the bulk in the weighted area, and then we're going to do a nice side sweeping fringe for this A-line bob, just to bring it into more modern times. I want to also show you another technique, and that's called razor rotation. Razor rotation is another way to remove a weight line, and remember, whenever you do a graduated haircut, and graduation is a haircut that's going to build a weight line. Well, many times clients don't want that weight line in their haircuts anymore. So these are a couple of techniques that you can use to release that weight line and create a better or more modern haircut for them, but creating the graduation, which creates again an interesting shape for the individual client. So the technique is simply by taking your comb through the hair and the razor at a round rotational type basis. And again, I'm just moving the hair around in different directions just to create more lightness and less weight on that haircut. So the razor rotation, couple little key points you want to make sure of is that when you're doing this razor is at a 45-degree angle to the surface of the hair. When you're doing it on the surface, you don't want to be too flat, you don't want to be too close. You want to keep it at a 45-degree angle wherever you're working on the head. So if I'm working higher, I have to adjust the angle of my razor. And it's just a quick motion to help take some weight away. The key factor is to know that whenever you're going to do a graduated haircut, you're going to have a weight line. And how you take it away is up to you, entirely up to you. But again, know that that weight line is going to exist. What I decided to do for this young lady today is we're going to actually cut a side fringe, which is going to sweep one way or the other. And the idea of doing this is we're going to do it with slide cutting. Way the technique is going to be done is I'm going to choose which way my client wears her hair, and we're going to then take that haircut from the center of that eye and sweep the hair to one side or the other. Now, when you talk about sweeping hair one way or another, that is the basic principle of the laws of hair cutting. The laws of hair cutting say short hair pushes and supports long hair. So it only makes sense that if I want this hair to sweep over to the right, I'm going to create my short hair on the left and my longer hair on the right. If I want my haircut to sweep to the left, I'm going to take my haircut and I'm going to take my shorter area on the right-hand side, pushing the longer hair towards the right-hand side. In this situation, I decided I'm going to use the left eye and I'm going to sweep this haircut over to the right-hand side. And we're going to start off by taking a diagonal section. It's going to go from the center of the crown, or where our 4 basic sections meet, and what we're going to do is we're going to take that right to the center of the left eye. Now, a quick technique that I learned when I was a young hairdresser is if you're not sure where you're hitting the anatomy on the person, just take your comb and run it down the line of the section. If you're too far off to the right, you could always move that. But again, just a quick way to see rather than visually seeing. Take your comb, just run it, see where you are on that eye. Whenever I do a slide cut, I want to always remember that this haircut is going to be not only part of the fringe area, but also blending into the sides of this design. So we're going to be now creating a short area right over this eye, blending into the length that we have down here. Because it's asymmetrical, we will have less hair on this side and more hair on this side. When I prepare this haircut for the slide cutting around the face, I want to always make sure that I go from the highest point of the head, and I want to always take it right to where the ear meets the face and never beyond that. So, when I prepare to do this haircut, I'm going to take my side section no farther back than where the ear connects to the face. Not back here and not all the way to the back. So we're going to do that on both sides, and then what we're going to do is we're going to create the slide fringe, which creates a side sweeping fringe area. Okay, so taking this client, bringing the hair over to the side, and I want to make sure that I know exactly how long I have to go so that I don't actually cut the length off that I've created with the rest of my haircut. I'm going to place this into my hand, and I'm going to go to the center of the eye. Now, depending on where the client wants the side sweeping fringe will determine where I start my slide cut. When I decide where it goes, I'm going to be cutting in motion, taking my scissors and sliding down to my corner. And here I'm going to go to the cheek area. I'm going to open my scissors just a touch, and I'm going to catch the hair. As I do this, I'm going to catch the hair into the scissors. Now the scissors don't open and close in any way. I'm going to now start combing the hair and bringing the left hand down and to the side, bringing this down to the corner of the haircut. Again, I could always take a little more off. I want to take a little bit more there so that I balance it out with the other side. I'm satisfied with the length here, and I will now just adjust slightly, taking again just a pinch with your scissors open, catch the hair, again pulling it down and bringing it down to the side of the haircut. Always remembering to keep the length at the bottom so that the haircut does not change in the back. Now, when we do this side on this side, because I'm a right-handed hairdresser, I'm going to lower the chair in the salon. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that hydraulic chair down as low as I possibly can. And I'm going to now stand behind my client, and I'm going to bring my arm up over her head. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take this side, the side which has less hair on it, and we're going to now bring it down, find our starting point, and again, quickly take our scissors, open a little bit, slide, and connect to that length at the bottom. One more time. Come down, use your starting point, connect to the bottom. All right, so what we did was for you guys is we did this A-line bob. We brought a side sweeping fringe into that. We could blow dry it any way we want. I'm going to just go in and break up this haircut a little bit more. And again, I always like to finish up my haircuts dry so I could see what's happening. As you could see, the weighted area that was there earlier has been removed from the different techniques we used, but I still feel it's a little bit of a heavy haircut. So just by going in and doing some breaking up like we did earlier with some other techniques, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of scoop cutting here. And again, doing it dry. Could have done it wet. Not changing the haircut in any way. Still a graduated haircut. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this through the back of the haircut. And then when I get to the sides, I'm going to switch techniques, just so that I don't take away too much weight through the sides. Remember that the head form has less hair on the sides than it does on the back. So we're going to use a more severe technique in the back, which is the scoop cutting. You could still see the length of the haircut is staying the same. And this is my last section in the back. Again, scoop cutting some of that weight out. Again, leaving the length of that haircut. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do something that we call chipping. And I'm going to, again, set up my hands, and I'm going to just nip at a certain area of the haircut, pointing into it, just releasing some weight. I'm not going to do the entire hairline, so I don't want to chip on the hairline. I always want to chip from behind. Where I position my hand determines how far out I want this technique to work, where I want the lightness and where I want the heaviness. And I'm doing it at varying lengths. If I wish to do the front hairline, simply go behind, chip away. Just to create a little bit more softness. So a lot of the haircuts today have texture to them, and we want to break them up and not make them as heavy as we used to. So by simply doing these techniques of texturizing, creates the lightness in the haircuts we want. This is the heavier side, and again, you could see me working from behind. Might be taking a little bit more weight on this side than I would on the other side. So we broke the haircut up into a little bit of a softer, lighter, airier haircut. I could sweep this hair down and forward if I wanted to. We blow dry it just so it goes back and swings back away from the face. Remember, short pushes long. So this entire haircut was designed to push the hair forward. It's nice, a little bit of relief for the client to have a short area in the front to help keep that hair back away from their face. So that's our haircut today. These are the A-line haircuts, also known as the diagonal forward, A-line, a lob if it's long. Those are the different terms that people use for these haircuts. It's a classic. It'll never, ever, ever, ever go out of style. It'll change forms. It'll change, the texture will change, the shapes will change, but an A-line bob will be here forever. Hope you enjoyed our video, and we'll see you again soon.